Hey my dudes, I run a bakery from my apartment called Bogre Lara, the Saturday bakery. Wednesdays are all about preparation. I have my list for the whole week written out and it's on my fridge so I can check it easily. I started by toasting some almonds. I wanted them to bake and then cool while I was busy weighing up ingredients. This is how I begin every week of bakery prep, by scaling all my ingredients for everything I'm going to make so that I don't have to think about it when I actually go to bake. Things like this are really important. I think people get caught up in the process of actually baking or the end result, eating something really tasty, and they love those things and they think that they're really cozy and cute and fun. And then when they want to turn their hobby into a business, they hit this wall of extreme difficulty because they're trying to do what they've always done, which is make a cute little cake or whatever and vibe, and it doesn't work like that. Baking and cooking at a professional level is all about systems, and you're only as strong as your weakest system. Anyone can make a great cake once or twice, a little practice, and you'll get there. What is hard is making that same great cake day in and day out. Cakes that are not only great, but exactly the same for every single customer, because that's hospitality. Why should person A get the ugly or even just not that great version, but person B gets the best? That's not very kind. That's not hospitality. Everyone who is paying for your product should have the exact same experience, and that experience should be great. Otherwise, what's the point? Remember, proper preparation prevents poor performance. Also, after last week, I decided to stop being lazy and label my containers properly. Someone in my comments said that they always hated cutting tape and not ripping it because they thought it was useless, and they would get into arguments with their chefs about it. In their mind, I think, it didn't matter. It was such a small thing that doesn't affect the customer at all, so who cares? And I've been thinking about this all week because I've never really sat and thought about, why do we cut tape? But I think, and this is just my view on the topic, it's important because details and trying your best are important. It is the cleaner, more visually better way to work. And while the customer is never going to see it, all those seemingly little insignificant details add up to a final product. The restaurants I've worked at that are religious about cutting tape were also the ones that cared about every single tiny little detail, and all those details added up to them being some of the very best restaurants in the world. I step into other restaurants and maybe the chefs care so much about the food and the customer experience, but they don't cut their tape. They are 1000% cutting other corners too. And while my meal at those restaurants may be lovely and I have nothing to complain about, it's never going to be the best meal of my life. And of course, before you bean soup me, there are a million exceptions to this rule, obviously, but in my experience, it's easier to make everything high level and have high standards across the board than it is to try to have high standards in one place and then very lax standards in another place. It's frustrating and confusing for everyone involved, from the chef to the cooks to the customers, because it doesn't foster consistency. And what is the most important thing in bakeries and restaurants? Consistency. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. This week's small tasks were chopping the toasted almonds, chopping Luxardo maraschino cherries, and soaking or washing butter in amaretto for an amaretto SMBC. I also separated out egg whites for the SMBC and then folded boxes. Every week I get a little faster and more efficient. Tomorrow we start actually baking and prepping for the week. See you then.